Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special master chat and conversation today. My name is Kailei Carr. I am one of the hosts of the Beyond the Business Suit podcast. I'm the chief curator of the Beyonding Community. And I am thrilled tonight that we are here with a special guest. On the eve of Juneteenth is when we are recording this, by the way. I often say there are no coincidences. And in fact, we were originally scheduled to have this on a different day. So, again, no coincidences here for us to be in this conversation. Here at the Beyond the Business Suit podcast, we are all about people living and leading well. We are all about people living and leading well. And today we have someone here who is going to help us do just that. So join me in welcoming Zee Clarke. If you don't know about Zee Clarke, let me tell you a little bit about Zee. Zee is a breathwork and resilience expert and the author of the groundbreaking book, Black People Breathe. Trained in India, she is a Harvard MBA who went from leading teams at Fortune 500 companies to teaching powerful tools to improve our mental health and well-being in the workplace. Her Breathwork at Work program helps companies support their entire workforce in reducing stress, boosting productivity, and prioritizing self-care. Her Black at Work program focuses on helping people of color manage the chronic stress and professional development challenges resulting from microaggressions and systemic racism. Her work is so necessary, and I am so glad that we have her here today. So, welcome, Zee.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here with all of you today, and happy Juneteenth.
Yes, happy Juneteenth. Who we are here on this eve of Juneteenth, on this in this time of year that I think frankly many of us are still understand, especially those of us who didn't grow up celebrating Juneteenth. I think some of us are still understanding how to embrace it, what it means to us, how to celebrate it. And for me, it's about freedom and particularly about personal freedom.
Mm.
And so I am really excited about the conversation that we're going to have today, especially given the work that you do, Zee. And over the years, I've talked to so many of us who are doing so much of what I call that capital W work, who have had breaking points in their lives and those poignant moments that have caused a shift. And I know you are one of those people. So, can you share with us some of your journey and some of what has led you to doing this capital W work?
Yes. Well, let me just start with where I'm from, because I saw a lot of where we're from in the chat. And so shout out to those in the DMV, because I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. So I saw some Maryland, I saw some Virginia. And I share this to say that, like, I grew up in D.C., right? In the 80s, 90s, it was the murder capital of America at that time. And when I was 8 years old, I got a scholarship to go to a fancy private school, read predominantly white institution. Okay. And I share this to say that when I was 8 years old, that's when I got that, oh my, this is what the world is like. Because I was the only Black person, I was the only poor person. I had a lot of self-doubt, which I now know is imposter syndrome. But I'll just say that the microaggressions, all the things that started to happen to me when I was 8 years old. Fast forward, I went to Harvard for undergrad, studied economics. I went to Harvard for business school, and I did all the things that you're supposed to do that are successful, right? That everybody says, climb the ladder, do all the things, get promoted, or try to get promoted. And what happened was, especially when I was in corporate America, especially when I was in Silicon Valley in the Bay Area, which the tech industry is predominantly male, and white male. And so there are not that many women even in the room. And then I was the only woman, but often the only Black woman. And that came with its challenges, right? People would say things like, hey, are you the new diversity hire? So smiling on their face. And I'm sitting there like, that's not the job that I applied for. People would question my competence. And so, I grew up, my parents, they're like, and you better work harder then. So I worked nights, I worked weekends, and then that started to affect my mental health. Then I was waking up every morning thinking, I'm going to get fired today. Just that not being able to sleep, not being able to eat, and burnout is real. And I didn't know if it was depression or if it was burnout. A lot of the symptoms for depression for Black women, actually, they just started studying it. They just started studying us to find that we don't react the way other people do, right? We still might look like we're fine on the outside, but we're not sleeping. We're irritable, lower libido, all these things. So I was experiencing all sorts of symptoms that started to affect my physical health. And that was the moment when I decided to push pause. And that's when I quit my job. I went to India. I studied yoga. I studied mindfulness. I studied breath work. And I had never felt so good in my entire life. And that is why I teach these things today, especially in the workplace.
Whew, that is an entire word. So Z, we're just going to have a conversation. And, we just so happen to have some people here live. We just so happen to have people listening to the conversation recording. I can relate to you so much. I also worked in the tech industry.
Oh, I didn't
I
know.
also, yes. So, if we go back to 2008, 2009, 2010, and 11, I was typically the only woman, the only person of color. Well, I'm sorry, the only Black person. There might be some Asian people in the room, but not people who looked like us. I remember going to a conference of several hundred people, and it was like Tristan Walker and me in the room, and everybody else was basically not like us. So that does some things to us, feeling othered,
Mm.
right? And so I'm curious, at what point in time did you say, okay, like I've had enough? Like I understand that you had enough, but like what really was that breaking point when you're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to India. This is I'm unable to do this any longer.
I wish I could tell you there was one moment. I'm going to
Mm,
just tell you a few moments because it's real and it adds up over time, right? So like
yeah.
the little thing to the little thing to the little thing, right? Ends up just being this massive snowball of a thing when you just blow up and you're like, I can't no more.
Yeah.
But I'll give you a couple examples of things. Let's see. I was at one job where my boss had left. And so I inherited the team and was basically doing her job for like almost a year. And so I went to my boss and I was doing well. And I went to my boss, the CEO, and I said, well, I've been doing my old boss's job. I'm running the team. I brought in all these clients, look at the revenue, look at the product launches, all the stuff. I believe that I deserve a promotion. These are the reasons why, right? And he said, you're so right. You are doing an amazing job. But we're doing a leveling exercise in HR. And so, because I also told him, because I don't have this title, you're losing business, you're losing clients, because they're like, we want to talk to somebody more senior than you. And I'm like, the only person more senior than me is the CEO. I was like, do you want these meetings? He's like, I don't have time. I was like, exactly. So he said, how about this? I'm going to give you, why don't you change your title on LinkedIn, print new business cards. And by the way, what that means is fake promotion. I was still getting paid the same amount. It was like to the public, it looked like I had this promotion, right? And that was just one moment where, and you know what, because I didn't have like all the savings, I was like, I just had to take it, I mean, I could have just quit. I think like me right now would be like, I'll figure it out. Um,
Yeah.
but we just, I was getting treated differently than other people. And then I would see these young white men get promoted so fast. And I'm like, where's your experience? Where's your education? Where are the results that you are not delivering? But it would, but it wasn't just that. I mean, I have a friend that refers to it as career lynching. And this is when, as a Black woman, you are more senior, you get, you rise up in the ranks, and the people below you that don't have the melanin, they aren't really happy about your success. And so, they'll go to HR and they'll make up stories about you just so that they can bring you down. And so, I mean, these are just a couple examples, but
Yeah.
it was really painful for my soul, right? It was painful for my body. I'd say if there was one moment, it was when the doctor was like, you need to do something about your stress levels because this is not sustainable. And in the household that I grew up in, my parents, if I said mental health, they'd be like, mental who? Go back to work. But you say physical health, and then they're like, oh, gotta listen to that. And that was in my psyche, right? So it was the
Yeah.
physical health issues that actually led me to quit.
Ugh. And the reason why I asked is because I'm sure there are some people who are listening right now who feel seen. And even the acknowledgement of it's not just one thing, it's the buildup of all the things, that can cause some severe mental, emotional, and physical implications
Mm,
that we have to address. So you left, you went to India, and what was that journey like? What did you learn while you were in India?
mm. I learned so many things. I would say the biggest thing is that ever since I was 8 years old, I started this telling you about when I was 8 years old. I didn't realize that my shoulders were up to my ears, just like normally. Yeah, it was totally, I did the Black girl version of Eat, Pray, Love. I saw that in the comments. Yes, that's exactly what it was. I didn't realize that my shoulders were up to my ears, that my baseline was just stress in my body. And so the biggest thing that I learned was, oh, that's not normal. That shouldn't be the baseline. I like for the first time in my life experienced inner peace, experienced my body fully at rest. I learned that the body's natural state is rest and relaxation, right? It's the other things that cause us to, feel not great. The other thing I'll say is that breath work. That was like the number one tool that I learned. And people are like, what is breath work, Zee? Okay, breath work, because we all breathe. Breath work is breathing with intention. It can be long and deep breaths. It could be holding your breath. It could be fast breaths. But here's the thing, research shows that breath work lowers your blood pressure, strengthens your immune system. It helps you to feel calm, lowers your stress levels, lowers anxiety. And you know what the symptoms of racism and microaggressions are, according to the Harvard School of Public Health? All the things I just named: high blood pressure, anxiety, right? All the immune system, weakened immune system. And so these tools are can direct these tools can help us with the issues that we face and we don't even realize we're facing them. So and I'll just say that being in India was also fascinating for me because I was like, this is where yoga came from, because that place, there were places there, especially in the cities, that were so stressful. I was like, this is chaos. You know what I mean? Just like there are different levels of resources there. So homelessness, the trash on the street, healthcare, you'll see people without limbs. Like it was kind of an intense situation. And that's when I was like, oh, if you can find calm in this environment, that is power. So yeah, lots of things, but the breath work and mindfulness were just very powerful tools for me.
Oh, what an experience. What an experience. And I'm curious. I know that there are some people, and I come across this in some of my clients when it comes to mindfulness practices who say, particularly with meditation, well, I can't meditate.
Mhm.
And so I know breath work is different than meditate, or they're not synonymous, but they're close cousins.
Mm,
So, can you talk about meditation? And then to those people who might be resistant to these practices, what would you say to them?
okay. first of all, I'm just going to change up the vocabulary and I'm going to start with the word mindfulness. Mindfulness is paying attention in the present moment without judgment and with curiosity. So the reason meditation, that's a type of mindfulness. Breathwork is a type of mindfulness, but let's start with pay attention. Pay attention. How you feeling right now? That is mindfulness. You might not call it a meditation, but it kind of is, y'all. It kind of is. So mindfulness is paying attention, right? Paying attention to how you're feeling, paying what's going on in your body, paying attention to your breath. And meditation is one form of that, of just getting quiet and listening and paying attention, right? And so breath work is paying attention to your breath. Breathing a certain way, paying attention to how you're breathing. And to those, let me tell you about the skepticism, because I have the skepticism. In fact, I have said, Black people don't meditate. My friend Julian was the one that told me, he was like, I've been meditating and it's been helping. And I was like, Black people don't meditate. And then I tried it. He did this mantra meditation where you repeat some things in Sanskrit. And I was like, not for me. and then I went to the East Bay Meditation Center in Oakland, California, where there were people that looked like us. And they were teaching and they were meditating. And I did a whole day long. And I looked around and I was like, because I'd be like, my mind was like, all right, I'm distracted. I can't do this. I'd peek an eye open and be like, wait, there are other Black people in the room still meditating. Let me close my eye because I can do this also. So I'd say that the media presents things like meditation, yoga, mindfulness with lots of white faces. But white people did not create these things. People of color did, okay? This is capitalism. This is, this is right. So with that said, the pushback that I got when I first started doing the work of helping Black people heal from racism with these tools, some pushback that I got was, but what about Jesus? And am I sinning? And this is against my religion. And so I'll just say I respect.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
I grew up in the church, right? And here's the thing. God wants you to feel good, okay? Right? And so if the scientific research shows that this will lower your blood pressure, improve your mood, allow you to focus, allow you to be more productive, allow you to feel a sense of calm, lowers your stress levels, lowers your anxiety, do you think God would have a problem with that? Right? And so when I teach these tools, I make it super secular so that it's whoever wants to breathe with me can breathe with me and you experience the tools real time. And now meditation, I know can be hard. I have many friends that are like, Zee, I can't meditate. My mind just starts wandering. And I'll say, you got to start small. You got to crawl before you walk. And so 1 minute is great. Set a timer on your phone for 1 minute. Guided meditations on these apps, and you can choose the lengths, are helpful. You start small. It's about the frequency because it's a muscle that needs to develop. And then eventually you're flexing it regularly and you can do it for longer. But it was hard for me too. It's still hard for me, right? But it's about practicing. It's about the routine and it's about paying attention to you and what you need and carving out the space for self-care. And by the way, prayer counts. Prayer is a form of mindfulness.
Yes, yes. And I mean, there's a reason why they call meditation a practice, to your point. It is not something to get right. So, all of us overachievers who are like, oh, well, I can't quiet my mind, I can't silence my mind. Well, meditation isn't about silencing your mind, it's about being aware and noticing what happens and not necessarily turning off your mind because we're human.
Yes.
So, thank you for that. So, what impact did these practices have on you, and how did that, open the door to you actually becoming a practitioner?
You said that Juneteenth to you means freedom. This is what I got out of these tools was freedom. Freedom to be able to feel how I want to feel regardless of what happens. So I spent 2 years traveling the world, learning these tools. And then I looked at my bank account and my bank account said, boo, You got to get a job. So I got another one. Again, senior leadership team, a Fortune 500 company, doing the that sort of thing. And corporate America had not changed at all. But I had changed. So when somebody would say something offensive to me at work, I would do a breathing practice to calm my nervous system. They wouldn't even know I'm doing it. I'm in the room. They wouldn't even know that I'm doing it, so that I could feel good inside and know that they cannot harm me. They can't, you know what I mean? So it was these tools, applying them when I was angry, when I was pissed. Y'all, you've gotten that email that somebody says something, you were just angry. I have a breathing practice now to get that anger out of my system, because Nelson Mandela said that resentment is like drinking poison and hoping that your enemy dies, right? When we are mad at the people, we're the ones that are suffering. So how can we suffer less? And so that's what happened, is I started using these tools in the workplace. And then it was around the 2020 timeframe when George Floyd, I'm the only Black person in leadership, which means I have another job called DEI/advisor to the CEO, because they don't know any other Black people to ask, that sort of thing that happens. And I was breathing, y'all. I cannot even tell you how much breathing I had to do, dealing with all that got thrown at me that was not my job at work. And that's when I realized that I wasn't the only person dealing with this, that other Black people that I knew were the only at their jobs dealing with the same stuff. And I was like, if these tools can help me, they can help other people. And that's kind of how my book, Black People Breathe, was born.
Mm, perfect segue into talking about your book,
Mm.
Black People Breathe. So what was your greatest desire in writing the book?
I wanted us to feel empowered around our own self-care, despite what happens around us, despite what happens to us, despite all of the things that happen in the world. And during that time, the I can't breathe phrase was everywhere. And I mentioned all the health benefits, okay, of breath work. And I was like, I can't breathe. No, no, no. We do breathe, we can breathe, we will breathe, and breathing can help us, can be the key to us feeling the way we want to feel and being our best selves. So in this book, I share, every chapter is something that happens to Black people. I got it. You talked about the only earlier. There's a chapter called The Only. There's a chapter called RESPECT at work. That thing that we often don't get. There is a chapter called Countering Imposter Syndrome, right? All these things. Safety is a privilege. And I tell, shopping while Black, I tell stories of things that have happened in my life and how breathing practices help me to manage it. And I'll say that at the end of every chapter is specific breathing practices you can do when you feel a certain way. And the final chapter is actually just like a look this up. How do you feel? Angry? Are you sad? Are you frustrated? Go to page 52. There's your breathing practice. And so it's kind of a how-to guide, but taught through storytelling.
I love it. And I love the breathing practices. And it's also a beautiful book. There's so many beautiful illustrations. You can feel the energy of the book. So I highly recommend you all have this as a resource, because there's so many techniques in there. And I'm still making my way through the book, but I found it so helpful already. There's a term that you used earlier, and you mentioned that it was one of the chapters of the book, and I would love for us to go there, and that is imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And I know that this is one that is a hot topic, especially for, women of color, people who are marginalized. There has been a lot of talk about what is imposter syndrome, and is it really imposter syndrome, or is it, some other dynamics at play? So I would love to get your thoughts as to what's at the root of what we call imposter syndrome, and how can we move past it?
Mm. Yeah. Imposter syndrome is defined as the internal experience. So something that's happening inside of us where we think that we are a fraud, where we think that we are not good enough, smart enough, creative enough to do whatever it is that we're already doing. Right. And that, it comes to us in so many different environments, but like it's that self-doubt when you first get a new job, when you get responsibility, you might win an award, right? You might be just new to something. Like there's so many moments, even when you get praise, somebody gives you a compliment and then you downplay it. And so, in that chapter, Countering Imposter Syndrome, I share some of the symptoms of imposter syndrome. And I shared a couple of them, but like one of them might be intense fear of failure, right? It's like, if I fail, that's like the end of the world. And that leads to self-sabotage. You might not apply for a job because you're like, they won't hire me, so you don't even try. If you turn down help, right? Somebody's like, oh, do you need anything? And you're like, I got it. But inside you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I can't let them know that they made a mistake. All of these things are symptoms of imposter syndrome. And especially as women of color, people say things that make you doubt yourself. Or they don't, or it's what they don't say. So in my book, I share this theory of non-prototypic, like basically you're not the prototype. When you are not whatever. But when you're not the prototype, when you don't look like everybody else, then people don't hear you or see you as much as others. And so a study was done where Black women in a room, and people of all different races and genders, but it was interesting because what they found with Black women is when we say something in a room, okay, when we say something, they do not remember that we said it. They'll remember that it was said, but we don't get the attribution, right? And so if you think about it, or sometimes the people will say something and then somebody else will just say the same thing in different words and they'll get all this applause, but like we say it and nobody cares. That causes self-doubt. And so I share a framework in the workshops that I teach at companies, as well as in my book, Black People Breathe, that's called WebAV. And WebAV is a framework, it's an acronym. The W stands for welcoming the voice. Actually, we want to crush that voice and say, shut up, that voice, right? But mindfulness is paying attention without judgment, with curiosity. So for example, what does that voice say? Listen to it, just acknowledge it. So for me in this, in a period, it was, you're going to get fired. You're going to get fired. You're going to get fired. So, okay, all right, let's dig into that then, with curiosity. So the E in WebApp is for evidence gathering. And so I invite folks to make two lists. One list of evidence that supports that self-doubt statement and one list of evidence that disproves it, so that you're going to get fired, for example. The evidence that supports it was, well, the other Black woman got fired and microaggressions and racism and biases exist. But the list of evidence that disproves it, amazing performance reviews, like brought in this amount of revenue in the company, right? Just like these facts, like boom, boom, boom. And when you look at the facts, you can't argue with those. The B in WebApp is for breath work, and I'm always teaching breath work, but there are breathing practices you can do when you are anxious, when you're nervous. There are breathing practices that you can do, can boost your confidence when you're about to give a speech or something like that. The A in WebApp is for affirmations, and I used to think those were cheesy. I was like, I don't do that. That's some cheesy self-help stuff. But then I did research. And the research shows that affirmations are effective if they have certain criteria. One is present tense. Often we use future tense, but even by saying I will be whatever it is, there's doubt there. So present tense, also using your name and not I. When you say I, then there's all this ego. It's like that thing that happened in second grade and you feel bad about yourself. It's like all the stories come, but you use your name, Zee, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's like somebody else is talking about you. It's easier to accept. And then frequency, of course, is just you spent years learning these not bad, but limiting beliefs, I'll say. And so you need the repetition. And then the V is for visualization, because Olympic athletes, they visualize their performance in an event, and research shows that it stimulates the same regions in the brain. And so the same applies at work and in life. Yes. So that is WebAV, and it has helped me because I'll say I continue to experience imposter syndrome. It just comes and goes, right? Even Michelle Obama said that she still experienced.
Stop, I'm on another call.
So anyway, point is that we are going to experience it at certain moments in our lives, but having the tools to sit down, practice mindfulness, right? I didn't say meditate. I said to welcome the voice and write some stuff down on the evidence, right? Breathe. And that can help you to believe in yourself once again.
I love it. See, you are my people, Zee. I am all about the affirmations and visualization. And I love the idea of gathering those receipts, those facts. Obviously the breath work and also like the welcoming the void, like all of these, not resisting, just taking it in. So thank you for that. I would love to hear more about, you went to India, you wrote the book, you went back into industry, you saw that they hadn't changed. So can you share a little bit about the work that you do today?
Yes. Well, today I teach at companies like Google and Visa and AMC networks, and I work often with the Black employee resource groups to help us deal with the challenges that we face, right? And so maybe, I have a class called Mindfulness Around Seeking Sponsors and Mentors, because often we don't get tapped on the shoulder. So we need to be intentional about making sure that we have those sponsors. And research from McKinsey shows that when a Black manager has a sponsor, they have a 65% higher chance of getting a promotion. So how do we get sponsors? I also teach a workshop on mindfulness to heal from microaggressions at work. When someone says the thing, how can you maintain your composure, maintain, productive working relationships when inside you want to say something or do something that might not be so appropriate. I grew up in DC and there are a lot of those things in my mind. But yeah, basically, and then I have a program called Breathwork at Work, which is for everybody from all backgrounds, of all levels. And that's really about stress management. So I have a workshop called Stress Management 101, rejuvenation from fatigue, prioritizing self-care when we are busy. And I teach tools on how to do this in a busy workday, right? How do you integrate these things? Because here's what I learned from this whole India transition into corporate. A lot of people are like, I do yoga. Great. And then they leave the yoga in the yoga studio. But those tools are so much more powerful in the context of everyday life, especially when you're at work. So yeah, that's what I do in the workplace.
I love it. And I know that we have some yogis on with us tonight. So that is fantastic. Can we talk about some of these breathwork
Yes.
practices? I would love for you to share some that are practical that we can use in those moments where Chad may have gotten on our nerves, or maybe things are building up inside of us, or things are happening. Life is lifing. Can you share some with us?
Yes. Um, Let me just start with when you get triggered. When someone, Chad says something, or doesn't say something. You know what I mean? Like when you don't, you're like, am I invisible? Did you not see me? And so here's the thing is that the breath is the pause between stimulus and response, right? So we often have these like reflex reactions where you just want to say the thing, right? And your body gets tense. What happens is your sympathetic nervous system kicks in. That is your stress response. And when that happens, we don't think straight. Who has sent send? Who has pushed send on an email too quickly? And if you're in a meeting, it just might pop up. And let me tell you about my face. My face says everything. I can't help it. I can't help it. And so the breath allows me to get my face right because I'm doing a breathing practice instead of what my face really wants to do. If you have experienced this, there are 2 breathing practices that are so easy to do in front of people. This is the thing. A lot of them you can't do in front of people. This one you can. The first one is the simplest. It is an extra long exhalation. Okay, extra long exhalation. And so I'm not talking about a loud like, right, which is maybe what you want to do. Though there's a reason why that is our natural, why we want to do it. Instead, I'm saying a silent exhale, wherever you are in the breath right now, try it. Exhale through your nose as long as possible, quietly. And when you do that, your shoulders come down. And that stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest nervous system. It puts the brakes on that gas pedal that was about to get you to do something that maybe was less appropriate, right? So just an extra long exhalation. The other thing that you can do in the moment is a belly breath. Okay, now a lot of us, we are trained to want to look skinny. You want to suck it up, suck it in, right? You got to look skinny. The belly breath is the opposite of that. It also stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. And so I invite you, wherever you are right now, take a hand and place it on your belly. Take a hand, place it on your belly. And when you inhale, expand your belly, allow it to push against your hand, inhaling. And then when you exhale, your belly comes towards your spine. Inhaling, belly expands. Exhaling, belly comes towards your spine. So I have you put your hand there just so you can feel what that feels like, because it's not that natural. But in a meeting, when you're with people, your hand doesn't have to go anywhere. You just know that you are sticking your belly out on the inhalation. So right now, everybody try it with me. Inhale and stick that belly out. Exhale, belly comes towards your spine. And you can do that in a meeting. They don't need to know that you are doing it. So those are two things in front of people, you're triggered. But what if you're anxious? And I'm talking about you can't sleep. Has anybody here not been able to sleep and your mind is like, blah, 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 what if this happens and I can't believe this happened, or if they do this tomorrow? You know, the anxiety can get to a lot of us. And so 4-7-8 breathing is very powerful for calming your nervous system when you are anxious. 4-7-8. Those are the three numbers to remember. You inhale for a count of 4. You hold your breath for a count of 7, and you exhale for a count of 8, breathing in and out through the nose. You want to try it with me? You ready? Okay. So
Yes.
sitting up straight, shoulders back and down, breathing in and out through the nose, and let's go. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last one. In for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold your breath for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And relax. And allow the breath to be natural. How you feel?
I feel great. I feel great. I could feel my nervous system settling, and I felt like I was pretty calm, Zee, but I could feel more settling. And y'all put it in the chat. How do you all feel if you went along with us? Ooh, some I like that one. Yes.
Yeah, the research shows that this stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system after 2 minutes. 2 minutes is a recommended time frame. And if you can't sleep, you can do this while lying in bed. So you're lying in bed and you're like, I can't go to sleep. I can't go to sleep. Try the 4-7-8 breathing. You can do it lying down, and then you'll find that you'll just fall asleep, right? Like just as you do it. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing those tools. And y'all, like, listen to this one. When we put out the recording, you'll want to listen to these again and again. And also, Zee's book has a wealth of breathing exercises. So definitely pick up Black People Breathe. I know that in doing work with people, especially with mindfulness practices, and I know my team has experienced this. I know I've personally have experienced this where you're working with people who have been through some things, right? They've been through a lot of tough, challenging circumstances and traumas. And as a practitioner, because you do also at times do some one-on-one coaching too, right? How do you protect yourself?
Protect myself from.
Yeah, from their energy, from, so that you're not taking on what, the people, even in sessions, you're with a group of folks who are going through some things at work. How do you not take that on?
Yes. So it's so important for us to have a strong foundation, just in general, even like even you don't not working with people, just to have a strong foundation. So I have my standard morning and evening routines that I do to have a strong foundation. And I highly recommend being very intentional about your morning and evening routines. But I will also say that there are practices that one can do after seeing someone to release the stuff, right? So an example, just energetically, an example is going and washing your hands. And as you wash your hands, you imagine that the stuff of the other person is washing down the drain, so it does not stick with you, right? So it's kind of like a visualization, but also you're using your hands. I have also in the shower, and that depends, hand is like quicker, right? But like showers are also same concept of imagining as the water goes down the drain. And so I'll say that just having a solid foundation, and then also doing that kind of release practice. There are also breathing practices to release other people's energy and get things out of you, particularly the breath of fire for those that are familiar from yoga class. And then I would say that just self-care afterwards. So I'm a strong believer in self-care, even a simple self-massage, massaging your temples on your face. I have a 10-minute guided self-massage on my YouTube channel. But just doing, in my book, Black People Breathe, I share this practice of I feel restored when. And so the question is, when do you feel restored? And make a list, make a long list. So during those moments when you're not feeling great, you can just take a look at that list and be like, oh, I need a walk. Oh, I need to take a long bath. Oh, I need to call my girl, right? What is it that helps you to feel restored? Mm-hmm.
Those are excellent. Thank you for that. And I encourage anybody who's on here with us live, if you have any questions for Zee, please put them in the chat. So my next question for you, Zee, is what is next for you as you look into these next 12 months? I mean, we're recording this in June. 2024, some way, somehow is almost half over. I don't know how that happened, but when you think about for the rest of 2024 into next year, what are you most looking forward to?
Well, I'm hosting a couple of retreats later this year. I have a retreat in August with the Modern Elder Academy, and it's called From Conventional to Intentional, Attuning to Your Purpose. And it is that because I was this conventional person. I did all the things, follow step 1, step 2, step 3, right? But then I transformed my life to be more intentional, to be living my purpose, to be doing what it is I know that I'm meant to be doing here today. And so this retreat in August is about figuring out what is my purpose? What should I be doing in our limited time on this planet? I also have another retreat in October in Colorado, and there is not a link to that yet. The registration is not open, but if you join my mailing list, you can learn about it. But it is a hot springs retreat for Black and brown women where we do yoga, we do breath work, we do sound healing in a beautiful setting with hot springs and mountain views, and that is in October. So I encourage folks to join my mailing list. Just go to zeeclarke.com and you can stay up to date on those.
Beautiful. And hot springs, that sounds amazing. And Santa Fe, I'm going to be there next week, as a matter of fact. So I know the energy in Santa Fe is wonderful. So that is exciting. So yes, I just put the link for the August retreat in the chat. We will also include that in the notes for this episode for everyone to join that, as well as we'll have Zee Clarke's website, zeeclarke.com, in the resources as well. Well, something that we often talk about with our community is what we call growth work. And growth work is what explorative questions, those ways that we can go inward to really grow ourselves, explore those things within us that need to be grown. And as we're on this eve of Juneteenth, and we've talked about inner freedom, we've talked about healing and all of the things. What are some of the growth work that you would give to us that you suggest we explore to transform our lives into being better?
Mm, mm. There's a question that regularly comes up whenever I go on retreat, which is, who am I? Who am I? And that question is interesting because you might say, I'm a mom, I am an executive in the tech industry, I'm a nurse, right? Like I'm a sister. And all those things are wonderful, but the invitation is, who am I beyond those things, like the me that came to this earth, to this planet, and getting to know oneself. That's why I love these mindfulness practices, because you get this quiet time. So the invitation is to think about, who am I, and to get to know the you. And I strongly encourage you to talk to you. I know it might sound strange, but mirror work has been so powerful for me, because there is the ego mind, and then there is the you, your soul, that is witnessing what the ego mind is saying, right? So, for example, looking in the mirror and your ego mind may be like, I'm fat, or look at those pimples, or look at those bags under my eyes. But the soul mind is, right, that other self, the you is witnessing the ego you saying those things. And so what if we could be nice to ourselves? What if we could talk to ourselves the way that we talk to our best friends, the way that we talk to the people that we love? And that's a practice. We remember talking about mindfulness as a practice. And so the invitation is to have a date with yourself. And I mean, light a candle, go into the bathroom or wherever you have a mirror, just in the bathroom, wherever you have a mirror, and have a conversation, have a first date with yourself. It's going to be awkward at first. It might be a little bit weird, right? You might giggle, right? But then you just get quiet, you breathe, and you look at yourself in the eyes and get to know you, because you are amazing. You are beautiful. You are brilliant. And this whole not being good enough thing is a story. I heard this quote. It was this: the greatest story ever told is the story you told yourself about yourself. What are the stories that you're telling yourself? And can you write them the way that you would want to write them, with intention?
Oh, what are the stories that you're telling yourself about yourself? Who am I? Who am I? That is so powerful. Z, that is beautiful. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your energy. When you first came on, before we let everybody in, I said, you are a ray of sunshine, and you are like, you emanate the it's not only because you're wearing yellow, but there is a light that is really beautiful. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And one thing that I would love to ask everybody here live is, what is one thing, let's shower Z with some love, what is one thing that you are going to do differently, or an action that you're going to take as a result of our conversation tonight? Put that in the chat. This is all of this stuff it sounds real good, right? It sounds real good. We can listen, we can say, yeah, that's good, I'm going to do that. But take one action. Take one action. What is that one action you're going to take? Yes, 4-7-8 practice for my insomnia. Yes, weekly, and incorporate the 4-7-8. People like the 4-7-8 breathing. Yes, counting. I know I'm going to do the long exhalation.
Yeah.
That long exhalation, that, yes, the web av. Yes. Yes, fix my face with breath in the midst of people saying and doing crazy things. Yes, date myself. Yes, light that candle. Light that candle. Beautiful. Beautiful. Keep them coming.
A mantra that I share in my book that has been really powerful for me, which is today I choose me. Today I choose me. Because I found, and I think this was just ingrained in me as a child, I was the only girl. So I just had to do all the things for everybody. I'm sure people here can relate, right? And I just thought that like by default, I just needed to do all the things and put everybody else first. But they say that you got to put your mask on first before you help somebody else on an airplane, right? And so today I choose me so that you can be your best self for you and the people that you love.
Yes. Zee, thank you. Thank you so much. And ladies, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to continuing to follow your work, Zee, and read your book. And y'all, her YouTube channel has so many breathing exercises. So check her out, check out the retreats. And I love all of this. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.